Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. So, while we do wait for anyone else who is scheduled to attend today's webinar, we might just go through some basic housekeeping for today's session. So, firstly, my name is Megan and I will be your trainer for today's session. The webinar that we're going through today, which is our introduction to your Employment Hero HR platform, is being recorded. You will all receive an email at the conclusion of today's webinar, about an hour or so after we do wrap up. And that will contain a link to this Zoom recording along with the password as well. So you will be able to access and view this recording at absolutely any time. You'll also be able to share this with others in your team if maybe they weren't able to join us today. And then after today's session, what your project team will be sending through for you is a copy of the slide deck that I'll be using throughout today's session. And we also do have a handy additional resources PDF for you that's got links directly to all of the relevant articles within our Help Centre that covers everything plus a little bit extra that we are going to be going through today. So you'll have lots of supporting helpful resources coming your way. Now, if anyone does have any questions for us as we do move throughout today's session, open up the Q&A Zoom function for us. So any questions that you do have, make sure you're popping them into Q&A. Yes, there is a chat functionality with Zoom, but chat is being unmonitored, so we won't be able to actually see your questions. So just make sure you're popping anything and everything that comes to mind in Q&A. If we don't get a chance to answer your question straight away, don't worry. It doesn't mean that we're ignoring you. It may just be that we're going to answer that later on in today's live session. Or we will always allow you to come off mute at the end of the session today once the recording is stopped. And that way we can engage in that further conversation and have a little bit more of that sort of personal conversation with you. And we can always direct you to your project team if something is a little bit more organization specific. Okay, so in today's Intro to HR session, what we're going to be going through is our navigation and security elements and components of the platform. We'll talk briefly about the login experience and what your employees will receive. We'll go through some employee file basics from some different user perspectives. We're then going to talk about groups and how useful they are throughout your platform. We'll take a look at adding in locations and public holidays and the importance of that within the platform. We'll go through some email settings and notifications, and then we'll end on talking about your permission security groups. So first up is navigation and security, where we're going to be paying particular focus and attention to two-factor authentication and single sign-on. So starting off with navigation. So on your main platform in HR, the menu on your left-hand side of your platform, which we can see on my slideshow just here, that is where you're going to be able to find all of your Employment Hero HR modules and features that you have enabled via your menu customization. Now, your project teams will go through menu customization with you where you'll be able to enable or disable certain elements of the platform if maybe you don't want to utilize it. But by default, you will see pretty much everything in that left-hand side menu. Now, this left-hand menu will look different for each of your unique users in your platform. So only platform admins and owners are going to be able to see all of your menu items that you have enabled, whereas your employees and also your people managers will also have different menu views compared to one another as well. So if we go into my platform, so this is a demonstration platform. It's built for demonstration purposes and all of the employee data. This is also on the highest subscription tier, which is equivalent to unlimited or platinum. And it's an Australian account connected with Employment Hero payroll. So if it does look a little bit different to what you see, if you are following along with me today, just reach out to your project team. It may just be down to that subscription level. So this is our left-hand side menu just here. And being logged in as that platform admin or owner, I have full access to view things like the recruitment module and salary benchmarking. When I go down to pay, I've got my full pay elements there in my left-hand side menu. I also have access to the reports module and workflows. And when we go into settings, I've got all of our platform settings here as well. So that's definitely what all platform admins and owners will have access to. Very different view for those employees or those people managers. Now, when it comes to your top bar, just at the top of your dashboard, just here, we've got a few different buttons that will be available for you. So firstly, we have our search bar. Now, for you admins and owners, this is what we usually refer to as kind of a universal search bar. It's going to allow you to search for employee files. So you will be able to really quickly navigate directly to an employee file if you need to. You'll also be able to use your search bar to search for different modules or features within the platform. So as we can see here, if maybe I've forgotten where the asset register lives in the platform and I've gone on a bit of a hunt from my left-hand side menu, I'm getting myself a little bit lost. You can always use that search bar there. You can not only see the pathway, so we can see that it's under compliance, but we can click into that particular module just there and taken directly to that area of the platform. So really handy to use that search bar. We can also search for different files as well. So if you are creating your own templates, you could even navigate straight to one of the templates that you have made as well. So a really handy search bar, definitely encourage you to explore that one. You'll often find that it's the quickest way to navigate throughout the platform. All of your employees, regardless of user type, will have some kind of access to the search bar. Your employees and people managers, they will just have kind of a basic access to the search bar, particularly your regular employees. They will really only be able to search for anything relating to their own employee file and their own documents. So they won't have that extensive kind of universal capability. Moving along, we then have our organization chart button just here. Now, this is available to everyone in your platform. The org chart is accessible to all. There's no way to kind of restrict certain people from being able to access your org chart. And your org chart is built based on the primary manager that is then nominated underneath each of your individual employees' files. So it's not something that you necessarily build out in this page. It all relates to whatever primary manager is listed directly under the employee file itself. What is only available to admins and owners, however, is your workforce planning tab here. So this is where you're going to be able to add in vacant positions and view any requisitions if you are going to be utilizing that feature. If that's completely foreign language for you, that's okay. We have an entire training session dedicated to requisitions where we go through that and your vacant positions in a lot more detail. We do also have our Smart Match button just here. Now, we do encourage you to register for our recruitment module training sessions, which is a two-part session where we do go through Smart Match in a lot more detail. So we're just going to skip past that for now today. We then have our beta feature icon just here. Now, the beta feature is only available to platform admins and owners. And essentially, what this will allow you to do is to switch on any working betas that are currently available for your platform to really just enhance your platform experience. So you will be able to toggle on or off any of these betas. If you do want to find out a little bit more about any specific beta that you think may be of interest, reach out to your project team. They'll be able to run through what that beta is, how that's going to impact your platform experience, if any. And then that way you'll be able to make that decision whether or not you turn it on or off. Moving along, we then have our AI tool. So this is our Ask AI tool just here, which is the little star icon there. So this is a really great tool for you to use. You could use it for assistance with your policies as an example, as we've got just here. So it can be really useful if that is something that may be of interest for you. We then have a quick access to your company feed. Now, even if we were to go to our home dashboard, you will always be able to see your company feed just here. But what this company feed in your top bar button will do is bring up your company feed on a dedicated page. So it's a much larger page. You'll be able to then filter and even create a post directly from this page as well, and also schedule messages. So scheduling milestone messages for maybe your reporting employees' birthdays or work anniversaries. We then have our notifications bell as well, so that way you can see your in-platform and organization specific activity, and also under what's new will be what's new within your Employment Hero platform. We then also have a get help button here. So depending on what type of platform you have, if you are using intelligent payroll, you would then be able to see payroll queries just here. Otherwise, we will provide you a direct link to our help center, which has all of our help center articles. Really excellent resource for you that you can always bookmark. You're probably going to navigate to your help center more often than you think, particularly in the beginning. And then we also have our community page as well. So another really handy tool, particularly once you do go live, other users of Employment Hero as their HRIS will often ask each other questions, and it's just a really great community space to get help from other clients using Employment Hero. Then in the very top right-hand corner here, we have our personal account. So if you are following along with myself, you'll see your name here. You'll see your account email address, so the account email that you use to log into your platform. And you will then be able to access your own employee profile, your account settings, and then also your Hero passport as well. So if anyone has questions so far when it comes to the navigation or even the top bar options, just let me know. We'll then move on to your 2FA options. So, from your Employment Hero HR platform, your employees are going to be required to set up 2FA in order for them to actually access the platform. Now, upon your initial onboarding and invitation for particularly your existing employees, they're going to be able to log into the HR platform up to 3 times before the platform is going to then mandate that 2FA requirement for them. Alternatively, if your employees do happen to log in for the very first time once they've activated their account from your invitation, and then maybe they navigate straight to an area of their profile that has sensitive information, which is anything from banking details, superannuation information, or even their tax file declaration. The platform is then going to prompt them to set up 2FA before they can actually then review and maybe even make edits or add in an additional bank account, for example. So when it comes to setting up your 2FA, what your employees could do if they're not prompted directly is come up to their account just in that top right-hand corner, come to account settings, and this is then where they will have some two-factor authentication options just here. So depending on your platform, you may have the SMS authentication option, but you may not. This will be highly dependent on your platform. So if you don't see it, don't worry, you're not missing out on anything. These are our two main 2FA options here. So as we can see, our first option is the Employment Hero Authenticator option. So this is a 2FA option that's integrated with our Employment Hero Work app. So your employees could just receive a push notification from within the app itself whenever they are prompted to input their 2FA and just confirm that before they can log into the platform. We do also have that secondary option here, which is the Authenticator app option. So if your employees already use some kind of Authenticator app like Google Authenticator or Authy, they're the two most common ones. They will be able to very easily add their Employment Hero account to their existing app so they're not downloading something else. And then that way they can utilize that to push out that code for them to log in. And then if you do have the SMS authentication option, they can also set that up to get that 2FA code sent directly to their phone. Now, you all as admins and owners, you're going to need to set up 2FA pretty much straight away, just because you do have full access to your platform, you have full access to all of your employee files and all of their sensitive data. Your people managers as well, once they do log in, again, if it's before that 3 login count, if they do happen to navigate to their direct reporting employee files, if you have opened up visibility for your people managers to be able to see things like their direct reporting employees' banking or superannuation details, and they just so happen to navigate there, they would then also be prompted to set up 2FA. Now, you will also be given the option to set up your passkeys as well. So, a passkey is that secure digital key, and it will just allow you to log into Employment Hero without necessarily needing to enter in a password. So, this particular method of logging in, it is absolutely secure. Because passwords can technically be shared around without authorization necessarily, your passkeys are often encrypted within a password manager, so it just makes it a little bit more secure. Now, whether your employees are logging into Employment Hero via the HR desktop version or the Employment Hero Work app, they will need to utilize 2FA once it has been enabled. So they're firstly going to make a selection of which 2FA option they would like to set up. If they do set up with the Employment Hero Authenticator app, they will then see this second screenshot along just here with a QR code. It will then direct them to either download the app for the first time from their app store on their phone, or if they've already downloaded Employment Hero Work, they'll then be able to set up their 2FA in app. If they are choosing the second option, which is the Authenticator app option, they will see this third screenshot along where they will either scan the QR code or manually enter the code into Google Authenticator or Authy. That will then trigger a code in app, which they'll then need to pop back into the 2FA setup in platform, and that will then be set up for them. If they do have access to the SMS Authenticator option, they will then see this very last screenshot here where they will input their phone number. They will then be sent a code to their phone. They'll pop that back under step 2. They'll then need to save or make a copy of their recovery code, and then that will be set up as well. So it is a very straightforward process for your employees, nothing overly complicated. And it's, again, something that they can do either from their phone or on a computer. We do also have a 2FA report that's available for you as admins and owners to view at absolutely any time, where you're going to then be able to see which of your employees have set up 2FA and which are still pending that 2FA setup. So you'll be able to see the status on that far right-hand column here. So obviously the green status being enabled are those employees that have set that up. Disabled means they haven't just yet. And if you do ever see the grey NA status here, this doesn't mean that something's wrong with their employee file or they're not required to input 2FA. It simply just means that they are still pending employees. So they just haven't activated their account by setting their password up just yet. Once they have activated their account, they will likely move into that disabled status, awaiting that maximum 3 login prompt. Now, if there's any questions from anyone on 2FA, do just drop them into Q&A, so that way we'll be able to answer those questions for you. Moving on to single sign-on. So single sign-on or SSO, it is just going to allow you to use one set of login credentials to access all of your different applications that your business uses. So with single sign-on, you're going to be able to sign into Employment Hero using your existing credentials from your in-house identity provider, which is often Microsoft Entra, Google, or Okta. Now, your organization's IT department is going to need to implement this process and configure this yourselves, again, via your own in-house identity management system. So this isn't actually something that Employment Hero will be able to do for you, both during your implementations journey and also once you do go live. So we are absolutely here to answer any clarifying questions that you may have around SSO, or if you're experiencing any issues from the Employment Hero side. However, single sign-on can't be set up by Employment Hero. So your in-house team will be able to manage that one. Now, Employment Hero does offer SSO via Microsoft Azure, so password-based SSO and Okta SWA. So it still will just allow your employees to access their HR platform and their Hero passport once they have been terminated. So that's a really important element, which is why we have that in place. So they'll always be able to access things like their employment contract and past pay slips once they have been terminated by just switching back to their original credentials that they used to initially log into the platform with. So it will just allow your employees to then access Employment Hero through your identity provider of choice, which again, you can set up through Microsoft Entra, Google, or Okta. Now, when you do want to, once you have decided to set up SSO, under your settings in your main left-hand side menu, under your security and access control tile, you will then see single sign-on just here. So you'll then be able to fill in your identity provider details, as we can see just here. Once that has then been authenticated successfully, you'll then be redirected to your single sign-on setup page. Once that's been set up successfully, you'll then see a configured heading and a little verified sign just here. And then if we have a look at that bottom right-hand side screenshot, you'll then be able to toggle on single sign-on and enable that for all of your employees. So you'll then be able to see that data appear at the bottom of your screen as well. Now, single sign-on won't be enforced on your new employees who are still going through onboarding. However, when an employee has finished onboarding, or for all of your existing employees where their employment start date has well and truly passed once you invite them to the platform, they will then be required to use single sign-on. Now, if there's any questions on single sign-on, again, just drop that into Q&A so that way we can answer those questions. Now, when it comes to your employees logging into the platform, when they are first invited into the platform, and particularly for your new starters that you're going to be onboarding in future, they will receive an email very similar to what we can see just here. And depending on how your platform is configured, they will then be able to either log in using the Employment Hero web browser version, which is on our right-hand side here, or they'll need to complete onboarding and activate their account via the Employment Hero Work app. So if you've got any questions about which method of onboarding and activation your employees will receive, just touch base with your project team. But within that welcome email just here, particularly again for your newly onboarded employees, where you are going to be issuing a contract in with onboarding, we will call out the fact that there is an employment contract that has been provided. Hopefully you'll be able to see that on your screen. I'm trying to circle it for you here. And then we will also provide them with their sign-in information. So they will see the sign-in email that you have entered in during that onboarding process. And then there's a click here hyperlink under that password section there. So that way they'll then be able to activate their account, changing their status from pending to active, and then proceed with their employee onboarding. Now, if you have not registered already, we do strongly encourage you to register for our part one onboarding training session and then our part two offboarding training session because we do go through how to onboard an employee into your platform and the employee onboarding wizard that your employees will go through as well, where they will provide you with their personal information and things like super and banking account details and things like that. So, strongly encourage you to register for that session if you haven't already. So we're now going to take a look at your employee files. So I do always think that it's important to have a foundational understanding of what information and areas of the platform, particularly when it comes to other employee files, that all of your employees will have default visibility and access to. So one of our absolutely most frequently asked questions is, can my employees see other employees' profiles? And the answer to this question will really depend on the employee access level that you're providing them. So we're going to have a look at some possible combinations there. So firstly, there are four different standard user levels within your HR platform. There is owner, admin, manager, and then employee. Now, if you are listed as your platform owner, you are going to see that orange owner label in your employee file, in your employee list, rather. If you are listed as an admin on your platform, you will then see a blue label for admin in your employee list. Now, whilst the actual platform permissions and level of access are absolutely identical for your owners and your admins, the main purpose of having someone in your organization listed as an owner is essentially for our internal employment hero teams. So if there is ever an issue with your account, if changes need to be made from that account perspective, if someone from your organization, once you're live, reaches out to our support team, for example, we will often look for the primary contact for your platform owner. Just so that way we can then contact you. So it is why it's generally best to have the most appropriate person who knows the most about your account. Usually it would be the person who actually signed your contract with Employment Hero. Have them be listed as an owner and generally listed as that primary contact. Now, you're going to be able to nominate up to 3 platform owners, and you're going to be able to manage your platform owners under your settings. So let's take a little bit of a look of where in your platform you're going to be able to set this one up. It's usually something that we would recommend setting up during implementations. That way it's kind of a set and forget. So again, in our left-hand side menu, when we come down to settings, we'll then come across to our company tile and then we come to primary contacts. So this is where you will be able to add up to 3 account owners. And as we can see here, we can then mark someone as the primary contact. So you can do that by simply clicking that action ellipsis on the right-hand side and then clicking Make Primary. You will be able to remove someone as a platform owner if you wish. So maybe Emily here has just handed in their resignation. We could always remove them as a platform owner. Now, don't worry, even if they do pass their termination date, they're no longer with your business, even if you do so happen to find that they are still listed as an account owner for any reason, doesn't mean that their level of access once post termination for their Hero Passport account will be any different. They will still only see their Hero Passport. They won't get sort of extra access to your account because they are still listed. So you don't need to worry about that one. When it does come to adding in your owners, again, you can add up to 3, and you will see here a list of your employees in your platform that are active. So if you would like to nominate someone as an owner, but maybe you can't quite see their name in this list, or maybe you've gone searching for their name and they don't appear for any reason, don't worry, it's likely that their employment file is still listed as a pending status. So once they've activated their account, you'll be able to see and then add them in here. Now, when it comes to your admins, the process of nominating someone and granting admin status to an employee is a little bit different. You're going to actually do this in the employee file directly. So if I was to use my search bar and navigate directly to an employee file here, once we have navigated to this employee's file, in their overview widget just here, we have this make admin toggle. So this is where any other platform admin or your platform owner is then going to be able to provide admin access to anyone else in the platform. So you need to just be an admin or owner to grant that status. You obviously won't be able to grant yourself admin status if you're not an admin or owner, but that can absolutely be very easily toggled on and then toggled off as well if maybe their role or circumstance changes. So you'll be able to grant or remove that quite easily from the employee file. If there are any questions when it comes to admin or owner status, just please let me know. When it comes to admins and owners being able to view employee files, as I've mentioned earlier, admins and owners do have absolute full access to your platform and full access and visibility to all of your employee files. So again, we are still logged in as that platform admin and owner. So I can see a lot of sort of overview details of Chris here. I've also got some additional actions. I can then see at the top here, we've got all of their employee file widgets that we could toggle on and remove if we wanted a bit more of a condensed view of the employee file. We have all access to their employment records. So under employment details, we can see things like their contract type, primary and secondary managers, what groups they're part of, any cost centers. We can also see any probation details if they had a probation period. Under all of the, well, most of these tabs, you will either also see an edit pencil to allow us to edit any of these details, or we will see an action ellipsis just here where we would be able to edit or even remove any data. So we have full access to their personal details as well, again, that we can edit. We've got emergency contacts, work eligibility. As admins, we will be able to see the front end audit trail as well, where maybe any details may have been changed. So we could expand that and then see what data has actually been updated here. Under View More, we can see things like medical disclosure, any submitted leave requests, employment history, etc. So full access there. We could view their payslip history and any assets that may have been assigned to this employee. As admins and owners, we can also see pay and compensation details. So under that pay details tab here, we can view what their current and historical salary records have been. We can view their working hours and also subsequent pay run details as well. Again, with all of those edit pencils here, if any changes need to be made or additional salary records to be created. We'll be able to see things like their banking, tax, and super details as well, including their total compensation and benefits and perks as well. We've got access to their documents so we can view all assigned certification and even complete certifications on behalf of employees. We can view all documents that were issued, including being able to view and delete. Not that we would encourage deleting documents, but you do have that ability. You'll be able to issue your formal HR documents, things like contracts, change to terms letters. You can upload external documents to that employee file. View their policies and induction content that's been assigned and any forms that you have submitted as well. Under their performance widget, if you do have any running performance reviews that are current or even historical that employee is part of, you'll be able to see that there and click through to view the actual performance review itself. and any management notes that may have been left for that employee as well. So, as we can see, admins have full access to employee files. There is no restriction when it comes to the employee file. Now, if we switch our view over to a manager, before we do that, actually, when we go to our people and employee list, I just wanted to show you what the admin owner perspective of the employee list looks like. So as we can see, we have full access to absolutely all of our employees. We could expand that view per page. So we have visibility of everyone in our organization with some action buttons as well. So if we do now switch over to our manager view. So I'm currently logged in as Maya, which is one of my people managers. And as we can see, Maya's view of the employee file is much, much less than our admins and owners. So with your people managers, by default, without you providing any additional permissions whatsoever, they will be able to see their own employee file in the employee list plus any of their direct reporting employees. So if we went back into Chris's profile, which we were just in as an admin, we can already see the data in this employee file is much less. So under that overview widget, there's no action buttons there. We can't even see what their account email address is. We really can't see a lot of information. We can hover over the teams count and view what teams this or groups this particular employee is part of. But already we can see under employment record, we can't see anything. We can't see employment details, personal details, emergency contacts, which is always really important for your managers to be able to view in case of an emergency. So this is the absolute base level of access that your managers are going to have of their direct reporting employees. So if you do want them to be able to view things like emergency contact details, that's where you're going to need to provide them with that visibility under your permission settings. Managers will be able to see any assets that may have been assigned if you're utilizing assets. They will only be able to see certifications assigned to your employee if, when you've actually set up your certification, you have granted visibility to your people managers. Or maybe you've listed the direct manager to be an approver of a particular certification. Otherwise, they won't be able to see certifications at all. Same with documents. They won't have access to documents unless, for example, with this uploaded external document, we've specifically made it visible to our direct managers. So that's the only reason why Maya here can actually view that document. When it comes to performance reviews, the nature and logic of performance reviews include the employee and their direct reporting manager, so they will absolutely be able to see that. But they don't have access to management notes by default either. So that's another thing that you would then need to open up. So as we can see, very, very minimal employee file data there. So you would need to open up a little bit to your people managers via your permission settings if that is going to be required. Now, when it comes to the employee viewing their own employee file, again, with no additional permissions granted. Already in that overview widget, we can see a bit more detail than we could as a manager. We have almost similar visibility of our own data as we did as an admin and owner. We don't have access to the employment details tab, where we can see who our primary manager is or that company email or probation length, but we can see and also edit our own personal details. Emergency contacts, we can see some more tabs up the top just here that we'll be able to view and edit. We, of course, can view our own payslips. If we have any assets, we could see that there. Under pay and compensation, we can view only our salary history. Compensation and benefits and perks, of course. Banking, tax, and super details as well. We'll be able to manage ourselves because it's relating to our own information. Same view and accessibility when it comes to documents, so we can absolutely view and complete our certifications, view and sign our documents, view and acknowledge our policies and induction content, and fill out any forms that may have been assigned to us as well. We can once again see our own performance reviews that we're included in, but again, not our management notes there. So we will still be able to view and edit quite a bit of detail because it is about ourselves. Whereas adding in things like salaries and employment history records, they're restricted for admins. Now, if there are absolutely any questions that anyone has on the different user levels or any kind of access to your employee files, just make sure to drop those questions into Q&A. Otherwise, we are now going to move on to our groups. So, groups in your platform is such a critical component to all of your HR platform. Your groups are going to link to a very, very large number of different fields, different functions, different modules within your platform, and it's going to help auto distribution and auto assignment of things like permissions, like some of your compliance elements as well. So it's really going to be very valuable to ensure that you're really sitting down and thinking about your group structure and then applying those groups directly to your employee files. So one of the first things that your project team probably would have asked you for is to provide a list of your groups. So some of you may still be working on your groups list, which is completely fine. You might be trying to kind of decide what sort of group structure you want to create. Some organizations may only require to have kind of those broader departments in your organization. So administration, HR, finance, IT, etc. Others, you might need to have those broader departments, but then also your subdivision working groups as well. So it's going to be really highly subjective to your specific organization structure. There's no right or wrong way to add groups into your platform or to utilize groups. It's also something that you're going to be able to change at any time as well. So don't ever think that the list of groups that you send your implementations team is the be all and end all. You will absolutely always be able to change the name of your group, add a group, disable a group at absolutely any point. Now, when it comes to where groups can be found throughout the platform, how you can utilize and apply your groups, you can link groups to your permission settings, your onboarding and offboarding checklists, various workflows that you're going to be able to create. You can assign certifications, policies, performance reviews, all to groups. Again, just to kind of automate some processes for you and to essentially bulk assign things a lot easier than it would be to individually add your employees in. You're also going to be able to filter several reports based on the specific groups. So it is a really crucial component and it's heavily used throughout the platform. So when it comes to you creating your groups in your HR platform, when you go to your settings and then under your people tile, you're going to see groups just here. So second from the bottom. This is where you're going to be able to add as many groups as you would like. There's no limit to the number of groups you can add in the platform. And depending on whether or not you are going to be utilizing workflows. There are some workflows that you can create where you can nominate approvers of certain workflows. And within those approvers, you can then assign group leaders to be an approver. So if maybe you have a workflow based on employee file change for all of your employees, you maybe want the group leader of your HR team to be one of the approvers. Just come into your main groups, click on that action ellipsis and edit, and that's where you'll be able to nominate one leader per group. So just one leader, that's all. This leader section also won't appear directly on this employee file either. It purely just lives in this page. So just something that you'll need to be aware of if you are particularly going to be utilizing workflows in your platform. Now, when it comes to assigning groups to things like certifications or permission groups or policies, I will just demonstrate how you'll be able to do this via our certifications module. So under compliance and certifications, we're going to be able to click on one of our certifications just here as an example. Under our assignee section there, when we click on edit, you'll be able to do this in various areas of the platform, including things like custom surveys as well. You're going to have a few different options of assigning various elements, including your groups. So if all of my, let's just say, parks team had to have a builder's license certification, rather than individually adding in each of my employees, if I know that only the people who are part of my parks team are going to need this certification, it's going to be a lot easier for me to assign this certification to a group, save that. All of those individuals will then have that assigned to their profile. And now I can be assured that all of those individuals will have that as a new compliance element. Now, to ensure that your employees have been assigned the correct group, you could always run a custom report. You could export your CSV files in bulk if you wanted to. But if you wanted just to check maybe one employee, what groups they're part of, navigate to their employee file. And once their file loads, under their employment details tab, just here, we then have groups. So this is where you'll be able to see what groups they're part of. And as we can see, you can absolutely assign multiple groups to one employee's file. So this is really where it's going to depend on your group structure, what group requirements your organization needs. You may often find that a lot of employees are part of multiple groups, just depending on how you're using them within the platform. If there's any questions for me on groups, just let me know. We're now going to move on to our locations. So locations within your within your HR platform, they represent your organization's different work locations. And for HR, they're what link to the public holiday calendars. So when you do add in a location from one of our supported regions, which is Australia, New Zealand, UK, Malaysia, Singapore, and Canada, Employment Hero will then automatically populate your employees' files with relevant country-specific information. So what I mean by that is, if we have a look at Leslie's Employment Details tab, their location is currently Sydney, Australia. When we then scroll down to their pay and compensation, we can see things like tax declaration, which is the Australian tax declaration form, and superannuation. If I was to change Leslie's location to one of our supported regions, being New Zealand, as an example, if we then saved this one and refreshed Leslie's employee file, when we go back down to that pay and compensation, we can now see that KiwiSaver has changed, and it's also changed to the New Zealand tax code declaration as well. So that's where those country specific elements of the employee file will then change over. Now, you will only be able to nominate one location per employee file. And to manage your locations, you're going to come back to your settings. Under your company widget, come to locations just here. So add in as many locations as may be relevant wherever you operate within your relevant country. And just by effectively adding in all of your relevant work locations, it's going to allow you to also assign things like certifications or policies to locations specifically. So just like we did assign our certification to a team, you could assign a policy to a location or even custom surveys. So once you have applied those correct locations to your HR platform, you've assigned the correct location to your employee file, you're then going to want to ensure that your public holiday calendars are added in correctly as well. So back under our settings, when we come to time and attendance, we then have our public holidays option here. So this is where you'll be able to add in as many calendars as required, and they are all based around a specific location. So if maybe you do have three different locations based in New South Wales specifically, and of course, you're only going to need to add in one New South Wales public holiday calendar, you will be able to multi-add your locations into the one public holiday calendar. So when you do go about adding in your new calendars, you will be able to create a standard public holiday calendar or a custom holiday calendar. Now, depending on the region of your actual platform. So my platform is an Australian-based platform. So when I do select standard public holiday calendars, my options are all of Australia's states and territories. Whereas if I was an Australian organisation, but I had employees based in New Zealand, for example, I won't be able to select that as a public standard holiday calendar. I would instead need to create a custom holiday calendar. So you will then add that name in. You will then add in all of your locations, so any New Zealand-based location there. Add in the year, and then you could use a base template if you wanted to. In this particular instance, it won't be relevant. And then you'll need to then add in each of those New Zealand public holidays. Now, when it comes to your custom holidays, this is something that you will need to manually keep on top of every year and create year on, year out. However, for your standard public holiday calendars, this is something that Employment Hero will update for you. And as we can see, we provide you with public holidays all the way up until 2026. So makes things a lot easier for you. Once all of those public holiday calendars have been added in, this will then make it really easy for your employees to submit leave over any public holiday period. So if we navigate to time and my leave, if I was an employee requesting leave over the Christmas period, for example, so we might select from the 22nd of December all the way up until, let's just say, January 9th. When we expand our hours here and we scroll down, we can see that the Thursday and Friday public holidays for Christmas and Boxing Day have zeroed out. They are my regular working days, but the platform will automatically zero that out for me. Same when it comes to New Year's Day. That has also zeroed out as well. So just means that there's one less thing that your employees have to try and remember to do and try and remember when those public holidays are. If there's any questions about the public holiday calendars or locations, drop those into Q&A for us. Otherwise, we're going to take a look at your email settings and your notifications. So when we go back into our settings, and then when we come to notifications, firstly, let's take a look at your organization emails. So there are some system-generated emails that will trigger from HR automatically to specific users based on a specific action, due date, and other trigger dates within the platform. So some of these system-generated emails you will have the ability to enable or disable platform-wide. So this is something that admins and owners only have access to, and you can then enable this for your entire organization. So things like maybe milestone reminders, you could toggle that on or off. And you're also going to be able to see under some of your emails, this little settings cog icon here, where you're going to be able to set who will be notified. So these are your options here. And also set up to 9 reminders. So 9 reminders is probably a bit excessive for something like a birthday, but you will be able to set those reminders either before or after that specific trigger date. So that can really come in handy for your organization. So we encourage you to have a look through your organization emails there and then make those adjustments where required. Going back through our breadcrumb trail here, back to settings, we then have my notifications. Now, this is not something organization and platform wide. This is going to be account user specific. So each of your employees are going to be able to set their own notifications of what they would like to receive as an email notification. So have a bit of a look through that one. If there is something that you do see here that you absolutely want to ensure that your employees are leaving enabled, maybe it could be like your certification expiration, for example. Maybe just take a quick screenshot of that, or when you do provide training to your employees on their new platform, just make sure that they ensure that that has been enabled there, because again, it is account user specific. So we then will end today's session on your permission settings. So we do run a dedicated permission settings webinar training session. Goes for 45 minutes at 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how quickly we do run through. I strongly encourage you to register for permission settings. It is going to be one of your handiest tools for you to use, and it really is something that you will need to get your head around and have a good understanding of, because of course, in your organization, not all of your employees are going to need to be platform admins and owners, and there are going to be some users where they do have role-specific tasks that need to be carried out in the platform. But with some of those role-specific tasks, that particular module, like recruitment, for example, can only be accessed by admins and owners by default. Recruitment is something that you need to open up to someone else via your permission settings. You might also have an IT manager who is in charge of your asset register. If you're going to be using assets in the platform, you need to allow them access to that module within the platform by your permission settings. So by creating these permission groups, you're really just going to allow and be able to tailor the access to suit the needs of your employees based on their role. Now you're going to be able to create your various permission groups either by adding individual employees where required and where needed, or you can bulk assign your permissions to entire groups. So just like we assigned that group to that certification, that builder's license certification, you can add groups to your permission settings as well to kind of just have that auto distribution of platform access. So we'll just really keep you both yourself and your employees a lot more productive. It will allow you as admins to delegate some platform responsibility and tasks out to your employees as well. And it will just help really keep your data secure because you know what access your employees will have via permissions. Now, it is just important to keep in mind that if maybe you do create a group called HR department, you just so happen to fall into that group that's been assigned to your employee file. You then add that group to a permission security group. Don't worry, your admin or owner permission and access will always override any permission setting that you have enabled that you just so happen to fall into as well. So your admin access will always override the specific permission settings that you do apply. Also, once your employees are terminated, even if they have been provided with additional permission settings, that won't have any impact when it comes to them viewing their Hero Passport. Now, when it comes to the types of groups that you can create, We do have some examples on the screen just here, some very common groups that you would likely be creating. This is just an example. You can, of course, be a lot more thorough or more condensed with it. But again, we do have a dedicated webinar training on permission settings. So I definitely encourage you to register for that one. So that does bring us to the end of our session today. Thank you all so much for joining us. If anyone did have any last minute questions, feel free to drop those into Q&A so that way we can answer those ones. Otherwise, feel free to leave the webinar today. We will also stop the recording and allow you to come off mute if anyone did want to have a little bit of a further chat. But thank you all so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in all of our future sessions.